Hi, I'm Vincent. My pronouns are they and them, and I'm agender. And last week, a big star, Elliot Page, star of Juno, Whip It, and the Umbrella Academy, and Kitty Pryde in a couple of X-Men movies, and was also in Super and Hard Candy. Anyway, Elliot Page has come out as transgender, and any reasonable person would be happy for them and wish them a smooth transition, whatever it may entail. This right here is the statement that they posted on Twitter and Instagram. Hi, friends. I want to share with you that I'm trans. My pronouns are he and they, and my name is Elliot. I feel lucky to be writing this, to be here, to have arrived at this place in my life. I feel overwhelming gratitude for the incredible people who have supported me along this journey. I can't begin to express how remarkable it feels to finally love who I am enough to pursue my authentic self. I've been endlessly inspired by so many in the trans community. Thank you for your courage, your generosity, and ceaselessly working to make this world a more inclusive and compassionate place. I will offer whatever support I can and continue to strive for a more loving and equal society. I also ask for patience. My joy is real, but it is also fragile. The truth is, despite feeling profoundly happy right now and knowing how much privilege I carry, I'm also scared. I'm scared of the invasiveness, the hate, the jokes, and of violence. To be clear, I'm not trying to dampen a moment that is joyous and one that I celebrate, but I want to address the full picture. The statistics are staggering. The discrimination toward trans people is rife, insidious, and cruel, resulting in horrific consequences. In 2020 alone, it has been reported that at least 40 transgender people have been murdered, the majority of which were Black and Latinx trans women. To the political leaders who work to criminalize trans health care and deny our right to exist, and to all of those with a massive platform who continue to spew hostility toward the trans community, you have blood on your hands. You unleash a fury of vile and demeaning rage that lands on the shoulders of the trans community, a community in which 40% of trans adults report attempting suicide. Enough is enough. You aren't being canceled, you are hurting people. I am one of those people, and we won't be silent in the face of your attacks. I love that I am trans, and I love that I am queer, and the more I hold myself close and fully embrace who I am, the more I dream, the more my heart grows, and the more I thrive. To all trans people who deal with harassment, self-loathing, abuse, and the threat of violence every day, I see you, I love you, and I will do everything I can to change this world for the better. Thank you for reading this. All my love, Elliot. That is a beautiful letter. It's his big coming out, and knowing that he has a platform, he chooses to call attention to important issues facing trans people who don't have a voice in the world. There's been an outpouring of support, but also of confusion. While I've seen some surprisingly good headlines, the press is obviously still learning this stuff, as is the public, so it's going to take a while for all this to become widely understood. It's new to a lot of people, this whole transgender, non-binary gender spectrum thing. Not because it's new, but because it's been taboo, and breaking taboo is a frustratingly slow process. It's not new to me. Well, not exactly. I'm 33 years old, same age as Elliot. When I was growing up, nobody told me this stuff. I had no external influence, no point of reference, no celebrities to relate to, and trans and non-binary people have been erased from history. But I knew, well, I didn't know what I knew, but I knew something was up. This is me as a 4-year-old, translated from Swedish 4-year-old thoughts. Gender is a conspiracy by the grown-ups to turn us all against each other. They're separating us into arbitrary categories and telling us how to dress, how to act, who to be friends with, what games to play, what toys to play with. Why am I being put with the boys? I have nothing more in common with these people than with those people. What do you mean it's because of private parts? Personal pronouns are public. Private means the parts are none of your fucking business. I am a child. The whole system makes no sense. Robots have personal pronouns and they don't even have private parts. Cooties are a lie. Why am I the only one seeing this? Obviously, I was missing two key pieces of the puzzle. Context and my own internal sense of gender. I don't have one. That pack instinct that makes cis people able to play the part they've been given without feeling like they're being forced to fake it and lie or whatever. Eventually, I found context, but I had to work through a lot of gaslighting by a society that, when I was growing up, was very ignorant about what it means to be non-binary, and that took time and exposure. I think this is the case for a lot of gender variant people my age. It's hard to come out as something you don't even have words for, like, Mom, Dad, you might want to sit down for this. I'm a person. All right, bye. Some people still don't understand. And when there's something they don't understand, like me as a 4-year-old, some people panic and discredit. Let's take a look at our friend, Ben Shapiro. The guy who thinks wet-ass P-word is a medical condition because his doctor wife told him that to protect his fragile ego. The man who wakes up in cold sweats and has to be told, "No, honey, don't worry, the WAP can't get you. It really can't." The man who just a few days before this went on a whole paranoid rant about Harry Styles wearing a dress one time just in case you thought he might be one of those people who thinks trans people should just pretend to be gender non-conforming cis people, because no, he hates those too. He wants you to conform. He doesn't even want lesbians to have Christmas movies. Disclaimer, Ben Shapiro is not our friend. He's a pseudo-intellectual bully and a slimy little weasel. He was assigned baby at birth and never transitioned out of it. He loves facts and logic so much that he makes up his own. Most of his arguments against transgender people are just recycled arguments he used against gay people before he realized that grift was dead. He's not smart. He just talks fast and hopes you don't catch him being stupid. This man is a joke. Let's have a laugh. Content warning, Ben Shapiro being a dick.
Okay, now, I would be remiss today if I did not discuss one of the great issues of our time.
I mean, you could just not weigh in on subjects you know nothing about.
And that is that the actress Page, who is, was, and shall remain a woman, is now a man.
Already know. The actor Elliot Page is a person who is transgender. We don't know that he's a man. He didn't say that. Gender is a spectrum, my dude. They're transmasculine, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a man. And one thing they aren't, weren't, and will not remain is a woman. He tried living as one and found that he wasn't. This is the easy bit. Who needs facts when Ben Shapiro can just make them up?
So let me read you the headline from CNN, which conveys zero information.
Okay, go ahead. Convey zero information.
We have now been forced as a society to simply say nonsense, to simply just say things that are nonsense, that don't make any sort of logical sense, that don't actually translate from English to reason.
Good job. You just conveyed zero information by saying the same thing 4 times before even getting to the headline. You're really good at this, Ben. And really, forced? Are you not making a video where you're saying the opposite of the thing you claim to be forced to say? Are you in prison right now? Did you have to pay a fine? No? You're getting paid for this. This is what we call a grift, a scam. What you're doing is saying things that are nonsense and getting paid for it, whilst claiming not to be allowed to say it. And if you're not allowed to say it, how am I hearing it? Auditory hallucinations? Did I imagine Ben Shapiro? Is he the new The Reverend?
Okay, so here is the headline, and you tell me if you know what the hell this means. Okay, ready?
I'm ready, Ben. Hit me with that headline you've been building up to.
Elliot Page, Juno star, shares transgender identity.
All right.
Do you have any idea what that means?
Yeah. It means the star of Juno is transgender, and their name is now Elliot Page. Pretty good summary. Gets the point across. We all know how this works.
Like, seriously, do you have any idea what that means?
Yeah, clear as daylight, Ben. Real simple. To the point. No issue whatsoever. What's the problem?
When I first saw the headline Elliot Page, I thought, whoa, is a brother?
Whoa. A brother who was the star of Juno? There's maybe arguably 2 stars of Juno, Ben. The one who played Juno, whose last name is Page, and the one who is Michael Cera, who is definitely not Page's brother, because that would be weird, given that the movie is about them accidentally making a baby. That would be implied incest, Ben. Are you okay? And the headline says, shares transgender identity. Sometimes that comes with a name change. We've seen this before with your fellow conservative Caitlyn Jenner. Do the math, Ben. It's not that complicated.
No, it turns out that Page is now identifying as Elliot Page.
Identifying as. It's a name change, Ben. That's their name. And even if it weren't legal yet, which we don't know that it isn't, do you identify as Ben? Does your ID say Ben, or does it say Ben Hameen?
And the media, instead of saying, here's a headline with content, Page announces she identifies as man, wishes to be called Elliot Page.
But that's incorrect, Ben. That's not what he announced. You're making up facts again, and that's not his pronoun. He gave you 2 sets to choose between, he, him, his, or they, them, theirs. Whichever you prefer, you can use. The headline, as it was fine. You're simply choosing not to try to understand it. You're choosing not to let it be explained to you, and I know people have tried. You're being obstinate about your own ignorance and disinterest in learning. That is, as far as my vocabulary is concerned, the most useful working definition of the word stupid. Stupidity is a choice that you make, and you have made it your career to spread your stupidity among your audience. Imagine spreading facts and logic instead. Here's a headline with content. Calvin Broadus Jr. announces he identifies as Snoop Dogg, wishes not to be called Snoop Doggy Dogg. You're overcomplicating this.
Right, now I would have the whole story.
No, you would have the wrong story, the story you just made up.
But Elliot Page, Juno star, conveys nothing, because Page was the star of Juno. So I'm like, wait, was her brother in that movie? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about right now.
Because you're not even trying, Ben. You're intellectually lazy and stubborn. What's a word for that? This isn't even that difficult. You're putting effort into not understanding it and explaining to people why they shouldn't understand it, even though all of the information needed to understand it is contained in the headline if you know what the words mean. And you can look them up, but then you might learn something, and that would be a threat to your career as a professional peddler of things that are nonsense.
Because the media have created this bizarre standard whereby if a person declares themselves a member of the opposite gender...
That's not what happened. Points for using the singular gender neutral themselves, demonstrating how easy it is, but no, they declared themselves not a member of the gender they had been assigned. This is a key distinction.
The entire world, especially in the media, must immediately flip on a dime, stop calling them by the name everybody knew them as, and stop calling them by their...
You hear that? Did you notice?
World, especially in the media, must immediately flip on a dime, stop calling them by the name everybody knew them as, and stop calling them by their...
Is it just me, or did Ben Shapiro just say a full sentence using the singular they, them, their, theirs? See, that's how fucking easy it is to flip on a dime, you fucking demagogue. Now, you're allowed to make mistakes, of course, but just trying to keep this exact thing up without being a whiny piece of shit about it is literally all you're being asked to do. Not forced, asked. Ben just disproved his entire fucking point about how nonsensical this is while trying to argue that it is.
By their biological sex. Biological sex. Or biological sex.
Biological sex is a bimodal distribution of traits, all of which exist on a spectrum. The binary labels and link between sex and social gender are, at least in large part, socially constructed and constantly evolving throughout history and various cultures. In the grand scheme of things, biology is of very little relevance to what we call each other by in society. We're people, not petri dishes. This is a red herring. Pronouns and gender labels have nothing to do with biology. In The Wizard of Oz, there's a character called the Tin Man, but it is made of tin, which is a non-biological element, so I refuse to call it a Tin Man. It is a tin object. We don't call people by their biological sex. That is not a thing, Ben.
You end up with complete nonsense. Just complete bleh coming out of the mouths of the media.
If by the media you mean the Ben Shapiro show, we're finally in agreement. Bleh, indeed.
Now listen, Page can identify however she wants. I don't care.
Can we hear that one again?
Page can identify however she wants. I don't care. Look. Page can identify however she wants. I don't care. She wants. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
Is that the voice of a man who does not care? That's the voice of a 4-year-old bully crossing his arms and pouting because the kid he was mean to got a hug and he didn't. You're trying to keep a culture war going and you're losing because you're a liar and you're upset because facts, Ben, don't care about your feelings.
Really, it makes no difference to me.
Sure, Ben, you're not upset at all. Very convincing.
She's an adult human. She can do whatever she wants. It is a free country.
All right, so what's your problem? Back on the wrong pronouns, by the way. On purpose, just to be a dick. They, them was working just fine a moment ago, but then you remembered your job is to get shit wrong on purpose.
However, it being a free country, I am also free to point out that Page is, was, and shall remain a woman.
Sure, you're free to, but that doesn't mean you're right or anything resembling a decent human being. And this also being a free country, I am free to point that out. Isn't free speech great?
Because Page is in fact a woman.
That is the one thing you can safely conclude he isn't. Because that's what transgender means, Ben. And that's a fact. Which, again, doesn't care about your feelings.
Now, I'm happy to call Elliot if she wants to be called Elliot, because people change their names all the time, and you can, in fact, change your name by declaration.
And he did, so call him that.
You cannot, however, change your sex by declaration.
Sex and gender are not the same thing, nor is either of those things binary. The details of a person's sex are none of your business. That is private and has nothing to do with you, and very little to do with their identity. You indeed can't change your sex by declaration, at least not whole cloth, but you can change several sex characteristics to fit your gender if you need to, with some help. And you can even, in some places, change your legal sex. That's not whole cloth, but it is no less official than changing your legal name. And you can, in fact, change your pronouns by declaration. Pronouns are not coded into the cells of your pee-pee, dude. So your feelings, Ben, facts simply do not care about them at all. Cry about it.
Or your gender by declaration. That is not how this works.
Elliot's gender hasn't changed. All that's changed is we now know 2 new pieces of information about it. They're not a woman, and their pronouns are he and they. That's it. Update your notes.
There is no other area of life in which people simply declare themselves to be a thing, and everybody goes, oh, okay. Right? An objectively verifiable thing.
Gender isn't sex, Ben. And even to the extent that they're connected, there's not a single measurable attribute you can point to as the objectively defining sex characteristic, nor as indicating a strict binary. And the only organ we can point to as being relevant to people's identities is the brain. And there have been studies on trans brains as compared to cis brains, interesting stuff, but we can't exactly go around doing brain scans on every single trans person, so simply accepting when people declare their gender identity is just the most convenient thing for everyone, because it doesn't affect you in any way, and it objectively, verifiably makes people less miserable. So, if we're talking objective verification, Ben, you're objectively, verifiably wrong. Facts, Ben, do not care about your feelings, but facts about feelings are relevant to the quality of a society, you absolute piece of shit. The fact is, you live in a society with other people, and gender is a part of how those people exist in that society, and if you go out of your way to disrespect people's genders, then you're just an antisocial jerk. That is a fact, Ben.
Right there, you can declare your sexual orientation, or you can declare a thing that you like. You can declare that you're a fan of this particular band. You can declare that you have a sexual attraction to X, Y, or Z, right? That's all subjective. And all we have to go on is your behavior, which is objective, and your subjective self-assessment.
Yeah, like gender identity, behavior and subjective self-assessment. And weren't you the one trying to dictate gendered behavior in your Harry Styles wearing a dress video, you hypocrite? We're not talking about anatomy here, Ben. We're talking about gender identity, who a person is and how they exist in society and how their brains instinctively respond to their own bodies. Which, by the way, I want to clarify, gender identity and gender expression are not the same thing, but that's a whole other conversation. Anatomy, Ben, is private. Gender, Ben, is public. Whether or not they match in a neat pair according to your traditional standards and preconceived notions and personal fetishes should be completely irrelevant to you. Because gender, which is what we're talking about, on the macro level, is a complex social construct. Not every part of it is socially constructed, but the whole of it is. Why are you so obsessed with other people's private shit, Ben? It doesn't pertain to you, and it doesn't necessarily have to pertain to gender. You're always talking about logic, but you're starting from a baseless assumption. Examine your premises.
However, when you're declaring something as core as your sex...
Core of what, Ben? And again, gender, not sex. These are different, overlapping concepts.
There's no objective measure whatsoever whereby age is a man. None.
He didn't say that. And even if he did, he's talking about his identity. The only measure you need is, hello, what are your name and pronouns? It's that simple. That is the measure. That's the part of them you would interact with in society. Not their chromosomes, not their primary sex characteristics, not their endocrine system, their psychosocial identity.
Right, she is a woman.
You can't turn him into a woman by declaration, Ben. The authority on Elliot Page's identity is Elliot Page, not Ben Shut the Fuck Up Hero.
And yet we are immediately told by the media that to even address Page or Elliot Page as a she is discriminatory. It's very bad and very discriminatory.
I mean, you're being an asshole, sweetie. You know you're being an asshole. You're doing it on purpose. That's the whole point of your video. You don't get to whine about how doing a thing makes you an asshole while being an asshole for the sake of being an asshole so that other assholes can feel validated in their own desire to be assholes. Just own it, man. Don't pretend this is some conspiracy to victimize you. Everyone knows you're an asshole by your behavior. See, unlike pronouns, asshole is a label that other people get to declare for you, so you might as well start self-identifying as one. Or you could just grow the fuck up and maybe get that hug you wanted. You might even get an ice cream for being a good boy. There's no such thing as a biological pronoun.
And so you end up with complete inanities and insanities.
Swimming with the manatee, simmer with the vanity, scimitar of Damocles, strategies, give this man a piece of ham and cheese sandwich, please. Panoplies of canopies, banana peel calamities, profanities, analyses or fallacies, fantasies. Just cram it, bees. Bees? Ben, don't try to rap again. You know what happened last time.
Okay, so Page declared that she is now a man.
He did not. They are a person of currently indeterminate gender identity, and it scares you so much for some reason.
Okay? But she also declared that she is a queer man.
They declared that they are queer. You're the one calling him a man. Ironically.
Now, this is confusing.
I am not surprised. Choosing to be ignorant has that effect on you.
Because if she were a queer man, this would mean that she is attracted to men.
That is not what that means. It can mean that, but queer is a broad term. It can apply to the entire LGBTQIA plus community as a way of not having to say all those fucking letters, or to specific identities that are a little more complicated to explain. Like, in some cases, the preferences of non-binary people, or people whose attractions depend on complicated or unknown variables. So a term like queer is useful for people as a way of saying, don't you worry your weaselly little head about it, Ben.
Which would technically mean that she's a straight woman, right?
No. Wrong. That's not at all what that would technically mean. I'm going to put this in a way you should be able to understand. Let's say, hypothetically, that you are a queer man. That means you are a man, and you are part of the queer community. That's it, you dolt.
Because if she is an actual woman attracted to men, this would make her a straight woman. But we know she's not that because she was a lesbian, right? So she is married to a woman, as far as I'm aware, and that means that she is a lesbian. But now she is a man.
I think Ben's broken, gang. Can somebody hit the reset button? He's glitching out. He's been fed the wrong input information, and now he's overheating from the processing error. He's about to explode. We're going to need a new crypto-fascist automaton.
And according to her, this means that she is a white, straight male.
Wait. When did race enter into this? He didn't come out as white. That's old news, hun. Are you okay?
So how's she queer? She's
Yeah, so how's he queer? He's trans, my dude.
queer. She's a white, straight male.
Queer people can be white. I'm white and I'm queer. What? Why are we talking about this?
So here is how Wikipedia tries to sum this up. You ready for this?
Born ready. Bring it.
According to Wikipedia, in January 2018, Page publicly announced his marriage to dancer and choreographer Emma Portner.
Yeah, good for them. You mad?
So this means that Page is a gay man married to a woman, according to Wikipedia.
No, it doesn't. What does queer mean according to Wikipedia? Queer is an umbrella term for sexual and gender minorities who are not heterosexual or are not cisgender. It's that easy, sweetie. Research. You might want to try it sometime.
Which makes no sense at all. Like, in any way, shape, or form.
Just because you don't understand or want to understand it doesn't mean it doesn't make sense. It means you're not paying attention.
And you're expected to simply mirror this.
No, you're expected to ask what it means and do your own research until you understand it before forming an opinion about it, and to keep your mind open enough to adapt your opinion to new information, which you're supposed to listen to.
Not only that, the left has particular standards with regard to who gets to play parts in movies. So
we're on that now? That was a sharp turn. All of a sudden, we're on the left, and who gets to play parts in movies? Okay, whiplash.
So, for example, Page, now Elliot Page. Right? I'm saying not because I wish to offend Elliot Page.
Yes, you are. Don't even pretend. That's exactly why. There's literally no reason to keep repeating it. Once, okay, you could have gotten around it if you were clever, but you're not, so fine. Even Glad's letter to the press said once is okay, and I'm not going to hold you to a higher standard than they hold the press, even though I disagree, because I know you're stupid. But repeating it over and over again, come on, dude. You're really bad at pretending that being an asshole isn't something you're doing on purpose. We can all see it, sweetie. It's your whole thing.
But because until 5 seconds ago, nobody had ever heard of Elliot Page, so nobody knows who the hell I'm talking about. So,
but we all know who played Juno and can put 2 and 2 together, and you've already done the bit where you explain who Elliot Page is. At this point, you're just dead-naming for the sake of hostility. It's completely transparent, and I'm not talking about that show where a cis man played a trans woman.
So I'm going to use the name that people know her as.
I'm going to take a moment to explain dead naming for anyone watching who doesn't know. When talking about a trans person who has changed their name and pronouns, it's best to try not to mention their old name. Slip-ups happen, but even just trying is a great gesture. Even when speaking of the past, this is called a dead name, and it usually carries bad memories and is best left buried. Same with pronouns. This does not apply to characters. Kitty Pryde is still a girl even though she was played by a he/they actor. It might seem weird, but we don't have to forget new information to speak of the past. And spending 33 years trying to be someone you're not can be traumatic, and that identity wasn't real. When linking to the past, it's better to reference what they're known for than what they're known as. It can take some getting used to, but it goes a long way. The one role Elliot Page should not have to carry with them is the one they were forced to play in real life and never auditioned for. If people can learn this with Elliot Page, they can apply it with trans people in their own lives, and the future will be better for it. Elliot Page is Elliot Page.
And then, over time, if you want to call it Elliot Page, that's fine. If you want to call it Elliot Page, that's fine. If you want to call it Elliot Page, that's fine.
If you want to call Elliot Page? Did you hear that pause?
Over time, if you want to call it Elliot Page, that's fine.
If you want to call, pause, Elliot Page. This dude just skipped a pronoun. Ben was about to say him, I guarantee it, and caught himself and decided to be unpleasant. He's done it before. He's called Laverne Cox she on Joe Rogan's show and then corrected himself to make sure he got it wrong. This guy is such a fucking weasel. He knows it makes complete sense to call trans people by their pronouns and intentionally tries not to because you gotta keep brainwashing that audience to keep those investors happy.
But for like today, I feel like it's fair to mention that and Elliot Page are the same person, so that if somebody tunes in and hears Elliot Page, they don't think has a brother.
Tunes in? To the middle of a YouTube video? Or is there a television or radio station pathetic enough to air this garbage? Either way, you're not helping anyone.
Okay, so here's the headline from TV Insider. Elliot Page reportedly to continue in same role on Umbrella Academy. Now, Umbrella Academy on Netflix, it started off, the series itself is based on a comic book. In the comic book, Page.
Elliot wasn't in the comic book. Vanya is.
Who, again, is a woman. And is in the series a cisgender woman.
Oh, wow. Ben Shapiro accepts cisgender into vocabulary. Watch out, reactionaries. Your boy's turning woke.
Right? Like a woman who is a woman.
There he goes again, correcting himself into getting it wrong. Woman who is a woman? That's such an empty tautology that, what was the phrase? Conveys zero information. Trans women are also women who are women. You're actually not saying anything.
Is a straight woman in the first season.
Bisexuals exist, pansexuals exist, lesbians who date men before realizing they're lesbians also exist, people who go on dates with people they're not even sexually attracted to exist. Sexuality, like gender, is a spectrum, and life experience is a journey, and compet is a thing also.
In the second season, Page becomes a lesbian because Page is a lesbian in real life, I guess. I mean, I assume that's what the plan was there and that it has something to do with how Page wanted to act because my understanding is that's not something directly from the comic book series. If it is, forgive me, that's fine. Who cares? Okay.
It's a loose adaptation. Lots of changes from page to screen. Who cares indeed? You brought it up.
Okay, but here's the part that's hilarious.
Oh, this is the part that's hilarious? I thought the bit where you didn't know what queer means and went on a whole rant about how it doesn't make sense was pretty funny.
So according to Variety, they say there are no plans to change the character plays her gender on the Umbrella Academy.
That seems like the sort of plan that would require more than a couple of days of deliberation, to be fair, and characters are always changing, so that's a pretty vague statement. Also, it came from unidentified insiders, so I have no idea who was even asked or what the question was. There are no plans, okay. Maybe there will be, maybe there won't. Maybe the character was secretly written as a transmasculine egg the whole time, and maybe it wouldn't even be a change. In any case, it's up to them and what story they want to tell, and it would not be in their interest to spoil stories they haven't even thought of yet, should they happen to.
So the series is publicly showing their support, and they say they are proud of their superhero.
Sweet.
We love you, Elliot.
Clip it.
But Elliot will be playing a woman. Now, I've been firmly informed that this is discrimination and cultural appropriation.
What? No, woman is not a culture. It's not like, oh, I came from a long line of women. My whole family is women. My 4 grandmothers came over from Womania, where everyone is women, to flee imperial occupation by the United Mandom. And I'm very proud of my cultural heritage, which I will pass down to my women children so they can pass it down to their women children. And if anyone who doesn't have at least one woman grandmother does anything womanly without giving proper respect to the cultural roots of Womania, that's cultural appropriation. It's not a thing, Ben.
When Scarlett Johansson, a straight woman, was slated to play a transgender man in a movie. this was considered very, very bad form. In fact, only trans people could play trans characters.
I can see how this might be confusing to you, but you know how many times cis actors had played trans characters leading up to that? Do you know how hard it is for trans actors to get any roles at all? That's the issue, not cultural appropriation. That's a whole different thing.
So I have a question. If Elliot Page is in fact a man, the way that the media have declared that she is a man, then why is she allowed to play a cisgender woman? Is that not cultural appropriation?
No. Gender exists as an element of culture, but genders are not cultures. It's not a cultural appropriation issue. Most of us come from mixed gender families. We're from the same culture as women, you dumb shit.
If a normal, non-trans man decided to play a woman today.
Normal non-trans. You know, we know, you know the word cisgender. You used it correctly just seconds ago. You can even say cis for short. It's super convenient and doesn't make you sound like a judgmental prick. Normal? Fuck you.
Everybody would suggest that this was a violation of long-standing norms.
What? No, long-standing what long-standing norms? The long-standing norm was to cast cis men as trans women and cis women as trans men, perpetuating a false stereotype that trans people are just cross-dressing cis people. They even won awards for it a few times. Jared Leto, Eddie Redmayne, Hilary Swank. I think all of them died at the end. I didn't see the Jared Leto one. Trans people are just asking for a chance to act for once and maybe see themselves on screen and survive until the credits. That's the issue. Making up facts again, Ben. Just a fact fanfic over here.
It was cultural appropriation.
Wrong, different issue.
But if a woman declares herself a man,
which is not what being transgender is, and also not what Elliot declared himself. He might, but he didn't. See, this is the stereotype I was talking about.
Then you have to make a choice. Either she is a man, in which case she can't play a woman anymore.
Why not? Men and non-binary people can play women. Have you heard of drag shows? Have you seen Medea? You're just making up issues that don't exist. Women and non-binary people can play men too. That's not the issue. The issue is the cultural narrative and the shortage of good representation. Nobody is under the impression that cis women are just cross-dressing trans-masculine people, and cis women aren't struggling for roles as much as trans-masculine people are. So a trans-masculine person playing a woman is a complete non-issue. In addition to these facts that do not care about your feelings, Elliot Page has already been cast and been playing this character on this show and has done 33 years of research into living as a woman. I think he might be qualified, my dude.
Or she is not a man, in which case she's not a man. But because our culture is unbelievably stupid, it is both. Right? That is the way that this works.
Our culture is unbelievably stupid, says man whose job it is to make it so.
So good news, Elliot Page can still play women and also can play transgender men. Presumably can also play men, which is really exciting.
Men. Wow. Ben Shapiro is so desperate to avoid saying cisgender a third time and give away the grift that he's actually willing to invent a new double gender. What's the singular of that, Ben? Man, or men? What are your pronouns? He? So this is the gender spectrum, right? Over here, we've got women. This whole area is non-binary. And here, we have men. And then all the way over here, we've got men. Remember that. That's where Ben Shapiro is, off the charts, all by himself, in a safe space where Harry Styles' dress and wet-ass P-words and Elliot's identity can't get him. The first ever out man, so manly and brave.
One further note on all of this. If you feel like this is crazy and that this is being crammed down on you, that is because it is.
So, you're saying if your feeling is that this is crazy and being crammed down on you, that makes it a fact? Ben, did you just unironically make the claim that facts care about your feelings? Because here I thought, and these are your own words, Ben, that you have said many times, facts don't care about your feelings.
That is because this is not a fringe phenomenon anymore.
About time.
Right? This is something the Democratic Party fully embraces and pushes.
I wouldn't say fully, but they're learning, and it's taken a long time. The Democratic Party of the United States of America is not the left. They're not progressive. They're right-wing for the most part, conservative. There are progressives in it, but the party as a whole is at best somewhat willing to occasionally accept the inevitability of progress when they discover that clinging to outdated social policies makes them unpopular. In Sweden, we call that a moderate, and they are right-wing. It just so happens that the other party in a two-party system is fucking fascist at this point and staking their popularity entirely on outdated policies and fear-mongering, which means the Overton window is so far to the right for some people to even recognize that someone like Joe Biden is at best center-right and somewhat flexible on social issues, and not the left.
Yesterday, Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader, he said that he is fully with Joe Biden on mandating from the federal government that transgender people be allowed to use the bathroom of their choice.
Wow, they get to pee. What a radical notion.
Now, it seems to me that if my wife is uncomfortable with a male walking into a bathroom or a locker room where she is undressing at the gym, that is perfectly within her purview.
First of all, trans women are women. Second of all, this is the exact argument that was made about black people than about gay people. Get over it. Your wife's transphobia is her problem. If she doesn't want to share bathrooms with other people, she can leave. Or advocate for individual stalls with real doors, ones that go all the way to the floor and the walls go to the ceiling so your wife doesn't go around inspecting genitals like a fucking perv. Side note, here's a little fact about me. I hate locker rooms. I avoid them as much as I possibly can. Individual privacy stalls seem like a pretty good idea to me. Everybody wins.
That seems like not inappropriate at all to me. But the federal government has now decided under Democratic auspices that men and women are exactly the same.
Nobody is saying that.
That gender is completely fluid.
Nobody is saying that.
None of this makes any internal sense, by the way.
Of course it doesn't make any sense. You're making it up. This is literally just a circular straw man argument. Facts and logic, huh? Where are they?
Men and women are completely same.
Which nobody is saying.
The same. There's no reason for you to declare yourself a man. Man equals woman means woman equals woman.
You're glitching out again. Automaton problems, am I right?
Right, I mean, this is just the basic transitive property.
You can't just say a bunch of word salad and then throw in transitive property and think that makes you sound smart. Somehow, there are people, real people on this planet that we all live on, who think this man is an intellectual. How?
In any case, here's Chuck Schumer.
Anyway, here's Wonderwall.
Fully greenlighting the Democratic agenda, which is fully in line with all of this.
I wouldn't say fully.
This silliness and anti-logic nonsense.
New show title.
And again, Page or Elliot Page is allowed to do whatever she wants to do today, but she does not get to dictate what the rest of us say about things as basic as biological sex.
Biological sex is not basic. It's quite complicated, actually. You got your genotype, you got your phenotype, you got your karyotype, you got your sex hormones. He sings the songs that remind him of the primary sex characteristics. He sings the songs that remind him what a fucking liar you are. Stop changing the subject.
And capital T truth.
Lies. Bimodal distribution of sex characteristics. Biology is messy, my dude. Oh, Benny boy, Benny boy, Benny boy. He goes to class. He falls asleep again. He's never gonna write this down. He's such an ass. He wasn't listening. How does anyone respect this clown?
Okay, but here's the Democratic Party pushing this stuff.
Joe Biden said that on his first day of office, he will give transgender students access to sports, bathrooms, and locker rooms in accordance with their gender identity in all federally funded schools. Do you think he has the ability to do this, and do you agree with this decision?
I agree with the decision, and I know he'll check things out thoroughly legally.
Okay, I'm sure that this will all work out just fantastically well. I'm sure.
And we can hope.
And don't feel bullied. Don't feel as though you are being forced to change long-standing and, for all of human history, held opinions about the non-malleability of sex.
And don't feel bullied. Don't feel as though you are being forced to change long-standing and, for all of human history, held opinions about the sun going around the earth. That's how you sound, you fucking 17th century pope. See, your opinions are feelings which facts do not care about.
It is all because you're discriminatory in your mind.
And on your channel.
Don't worry about the fact that this is all illogical and makes no sense.
See, the reason why it doesn't make sense to you, and I understand that it doesn't, isn't because it's illogical, but because you're stupid. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's very interesting.
The media have told you that a thing is so, and therefore it is so.
The media that just learned about deadening last week, they're the ones behind this, the ones who are taking forever to catch up. Sure, buddy, it's the media and the Democratic Party. Yeah, that's it. This guy calls us delusional.
And therefore, and also, if you mention it, it's because you're obsessed with these issues. This is one of my favorites.
I mean, you do talk about it a lot for something that doesn't affect your life in any way, shape, or form, except for the fact that you get paid for spreading lies about trans people.
Is that you say something as radical as men and women are exactly the same, and
nobody says that.
A man can become a woman.
This is not what being transgender is. A transgender woman is a woman even before she transitions. One transitions into being more comfortable, not into another gender.
And then I say no. And they're like, why are you even paying attention to this? Why are you even making an issue out of this?
Do you see the rage in his eyes? Yeah, Ben, why are you making an issue out of this instead of just letting people live their lives in peace? Why, Ben? Why, Ben? What is this hate about? Like, do you fucking see this?
Why are you even making an issue out of this?
Do you see it? Like, that is hate.
I'm not. You guys are.
And no, you are, but what am I? He who smelt it, dealt it. Is that the level of discourse we're at? Are these the facts and the logic?
I'm sorry, but you purveyors of new truths that have nothing to do with science, logic, reason.
Here's the thing, Ben. Science, logic, and reason are tools for discovering new truths. Truths we previously did not know, but that are nonetheless true, such as gender is more complicated than you give it credit for. Old truths often turn out to be false. That is the nature of scientific progress.
The answer is no. The answer is no. I do not go along with your mandatory take on the world.
Mandatory. This, whatever you're doing, is your career, Ben. It is what you do for a living, and you live comfortably. In what way are you not being allowed to hold your stupid-ass anti-science opinions? You're breaking YouTube's terms of service for harassment right now, and your channel is still there. What consequences are you facing? YouTube is well within their right to ban you from their platform if they so choose, and even they haven't done that. They're not even worried that they might face consequences for you being a bully on their platform. Clearly, free speech is doing just fine. What threat are you under from the trans community? From Elliot Page, who just found the second closet door. What's he ever done to you? Did he get the hug and the ice cream and now you're all upset that the media isn't saying how brave you are for being a willfully ignorant cunt in public? So now you gotta ruin his big day? Could you just not be a douche, or is that something that's core to your identity and can't be changed?
And I don't think Americans should either.
And what you think is usually wrong.
That's not an excuse for being nasty to people. It's not an excuse for discrimination.
Then why are you literally doing and advocating for that?
It is a recommendation that we all speak real truths when they are available.
Let me know when you're about to start.
And it happens to be a real truth that Elliot Page is, was, and will remain a woman.
Nope, never was. That's not how it works.
Even if Elliot Page believes that she is a man, and you're under no obligation, moral or otherwise, to suggest that men can become women.
That's not how it works.
Or to teach that to your children, which is really what the left wants out of this whole deal.
Yeah, no, don't teach your children that trans people are men that become women and women that become men, because that's incorrect and exactly the reason why I was in denial for so long. Trans women are women, trans men are men, and non-binary people are non-binary the whole time. That's it. Transition is not a change of gender. It's a realization and affirmation of gender through adjustments in accordance with the needs of the individual. It's about the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You're American. You know that phrase, you fake-ass libertarian. In summary, Ben Shapiro is not an intellectual, and he's not a guardian of truth. And he's not a libertarian. Hell, right-wing libertarianism isn't even a real thing. Anarcho-capitalism is just a self-contradictory funnel into feudalism, and he's not even that. He doesn't know what he's talking about enough to be that. He's just a professional scaremonger. He says things that are nonsense in order to make people think that the existence of trans people is a threat to anything. Trans people are just people who are trans, which is not an ideology or a choice, and definitely not a threat. Ben Shapiro's rhetoric, however, is a choice and a threat to trans people's access to healthcare, family support, and society in which to live in peace all the way to the credits. Have a tasteful tuna.
Did you know that every like on this video creates one additional leftist? Don't ask me why. That's called science. To take advantage of this amazing opportunity, hit the like button.